What's going on, everybody? Draft season still firmly in the air. And as great as it is to watch draft day, as great as it is to break down the prospects of a running back, wide receiver, and tight end, sometimes you got to take that next leap of faith and figure out what the best landing spots for all parties involved might be. And accordingly, that is our goal today here on the Fantasy Life Show. But I, of course, cannot accomplish this alone. And accordingly, I'm joined by the one, the only Fantasy Life Director of Analytics, all-around baller, Dwain, the Rock McFarland. Mr. Dwain, what's up, man?
What is up? I'm wearing my Analytical Assassin shirt, which was given to me by Brian Drake back when I was doing the Fantasy Football Hustle, but mainly because it's got the Tombstone logo on there. And so this is my hat tip to the late Val Kilmer, one of the best actors ever, man. He was absolutely fantastic as Doc Holliday. So got to get that out of the way right up front.
R.I.P. Val, man. Also a good reminder, Dwain, gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. I haven't seen Heat. It's one of my worst mishaps
Oh my
ever.
gosh.
How bad am I missing out?
Heat's really good. Heat's really good. You got De Niro, you got Kilmer, you got Pacino. It's a can't miss. You got to watch it.
I'm on vacation this week. I will have watched Heat by the next time we talk next week. Hand to God, Dwain, you and me. But yes, Tombstone, if you guys haven't seen that one, obviously a classic as well. But back to the show at hand again today, guys, going through some of the biggest and baddest, and by baddest, I mean that in a good way, prospects of the 2025 NFL draft. But Dwain and I are going to be going through each and determining what some good landing spots might be. So let's kick things off, Dwain, with the RB1 in everyone's mind. That is Boise State RB Ashton Jeanty. If you guys have been checking out fantasylife.com, you will see Matthew Freeman and Thor Nystrom have been pouring out some mock drafts. Accordingly, Freeman and Thor are in cohesion with Jeanty going to the Raiders at pick 6. So, Dwain, that does seem to be the chalk at this point. Some have wondered maybe if he makes it to the Bears at 10, the Cowboys at 12. What say you about Mr. Jeanty?
Well, here's the good thing about Ashton Jeanty. He's so good that it really doesn't matter. Okay. If he went to the Titans, he would immediately take over the whole backfield. We know they're not taking him at 1, but same thing for the Browns. He would take over their whole backfield. Giants, I love Tyrone Tracy. He would never see the light of day again. Ashton Jeanty would completely bury him from day one. Talk about the Patriots. Yeah, Ramondre, kind of like you. Doesn't matter. You're on the bench if Ashton Jeanty lands on your team. Jaguars.
Hey, seriously, real quick, Dwain.
Very good. Yeah.
On the Patriots, I mean, Ashton Jeanty and Antonio Gibson, that's a mean 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah. In the 5% of snaps that we would give to Antonio Gibson in that scenario, I'm sure he would be absolute freaking fire. Raiders, obviously, you've got Raheem Mostert and Sincere McCormick and Zamir White. So, like, again, that's the chalk. I wouldn't mind that one because we've got Chip Kelly there, Ian. We've got Pete Carroll. They're going to be willing to run the ball. If you really look at their wide receivers, they don't have any after Jacoby Myers. If we did a fun thing of man on the street, most people could not name anyone after Jacoby Myers as far as wide receivers. Now, we know the next guy is Brock Bowers. They've got Michael Mayer. So just run more 12 personnel and just get Ashton Jeanty out there and completely feed him. But if we wanted to go non-chalk, right, and let's say he did happen to slip a little bit more, again, guys, Jeanty could pretty much start in almost any scenario, but you did name them. Like, it's the Bears. I think you would immediately take over the backfield completely from DeAndre Swift. For the Cowboys, we know they don't really have anybody. We're sitting on Javonte Williams right now there. I would say even as far as getting to the Cardinals, like, and I don't think he's going to fall that far, but as much as I like James Conner and we like Trey Benson, like, Ashton Jeanty's just too good. Now, maybe that scenario, he doesn't get 70% of the snaps right away in week 1. But the team that I had written down actually, and that I had bolded, was actually the Bears. We've got Caleb Williams. You've got DJ Moore. You invested in Rome Odunze last year. That's still TBD, but you've got a good tight end in Cole Kmet, right? You're seeing Tyler Warren mocked quite a bit right now to the Bears. I think Cole Kmet is good enough. I think I would rather add the running back in Ashton Jeanty. And again, we're really coming from a fantasy angle. What's the thing that actually keeps all these other pieces in play? I have started drafting my best ball teams in, and I've been taking some Cole Kmet. I'm like, this guy's actually, he's not that bad. Like, and you can get him later in drafts. So I really don't want to mess that up. And looking at the Bears, we get Ben Johnson. So hopefully we get this offense on track. Ashton Jeanty to the Bears is the one that I would like. But like I said, man, he can pretty much, he's almost landing spot proof. You just don't want him to land with like a Jonathan Taylor or a Christian McCaffrey, something like that.
I've actually been waiting weeks, Dwain, to get this Cole Kmet take off my chest. But as you can imagine, it's not really the easiest, thing to bring up during a draft season. But why is it that Cole Kmet is the only guy in Chicago who are not expecting to take a jump with Ben Johnson in town? All right. There's no competition. When I thought last year Gerald Everett might actually turn things into a bit more of a 1A, 1B, that didn't have it. That did not happen. Everett is still out there on the streets. I mean, again, no, we're not expecting Cole Kmet to be a top 5 finisher, but buried in that low end tight end 2 range right now. And yeah, he's going to be starting. And if we caught 8-9 touchdowns and a Caleb Williams spike year, don't think we would be shocked. But just had to again,
Ian, real quick on that. Just finished my projections on the Bears yesterday. I only have one division left to go. Nice. So I got to throw this in here for producer swing right now. Again, I've not gone back and looked at the order that any of this stuff is landing in. I'm just going through my projection process. But right now in a PPR setting, Cole Kmet, tight end 8. So we do expect Cole Kmet to have a nice bounce back with Keenan Allen gone. So anyway.
And it's one of those things when Peter Overset and I did our best ball draft a week and a half ago. I mean, I really like what Pete was saying where, look, if he's going to be spending on tight end, he's going to do it early. Give him Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, or George Kittle. But if not, we're waiting. We're playing the long game because you can see actual, full-time starters like Cole Kmet, like Bretton Strange, hopefully, Mike Gesicki's, even the Harold Fannins of the world available way late. So as we finish off, this tight end, best ball tight end landscape discussion with the Ashton Jeanty range, Dwain. I had a question for you, though, with Jeanty. If every single NFL running back just became a free agent, every single running back depth chart was clear, what offense would be the most fantasy-friendly for Ashton Jeanty?
If every backfield was wiped clean, it doesn't matter, dude. You can play anywhere. This is what I'm saying.
But if you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one.
Maybe they have pick 11 in the draft.
I was going to say the Lions because I really like it.
Traded to the Broncos.
I would say it's the Lions because I love it. So, 49ers, look, here's the thing. Like 49ers, yeah, sure. Like it would work, but you're definitely going to have worries early in the season if they don't trade CMC. You're basically waiting for a CMC injury. If CMC's healthy, he is actually going to force a split with Jeanty.
I had the 49ers at pick 11 as my ridiculous Ashton Jeanty landing spot with the caveat that Christian McCaffrey gets traded to the Denver Broncos, which would be hot. I mean, that would be a lot of fun. I've only been thinking about it for about the past 20 minutes, Dwain, but, I can already wrap my mind around it. So, again,
if CMC doesn't get traded, how much do you like that?
It goes from the best to maybe the worst possible landing spot.
Then he becomes like, oh man, if CMC does go down or gets traded before the deadline, then yeah, you have the running back 1 overall on your hands. But if not, you might have like running back 24.
So look, that's not going to happen. I understand it. The one that actually could happen, Dwayne, like the most realistic worst landing spot for Jeanty, is it the Dolphins at 13? If he somehow makes it past the Bears and the Cowboys, because I actually could see the Dolphins maybe making that play if he's available.
I could totally see Mike McDaniel doing that. I don't know if he'd be able to stop himself. I mean, he's from the same vein as Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if either one of those dudes can stop themselves if Jeanty gets to them. But I would say in a backfield with Achane, there would be a better chance right away, in my opinion, in year 1 for a split. Jeanty's good enough that he would take away work from CMC as well. It would hurt both of their values. But I'll be honest, I think as much as I love Achane, if Ashton Jeanty landed with the Dolphins, I would be projecting Jeanty as the lead back immediately. Yeah. Now, I would still be giving Achane carries. So it would be enough that it's like, okay, well, this isn't the best landing spot for Jeanty. But I mean, I would immediately be looking at 50% of the rushing attempts going to Jeanty, and then probably putting Achane more in that kind of satellite role, maybe 35%. The league average for like a running back 2 is like 28% of the carries. So I would have Achane above that, but obviously that would be a huge blow to Achane. Achane would drop from being like a 2nd round pick to being like an 8th or a 9th round pick in fantasy drafts.
I think that probably is the right way of looking at it. Even a, quote unquote bad landing spot like the Dolphins, I mean, it really wouldn't impact Jeanty as much because now you have a team using a top 15 pick on him. It'd be the incumbent running back, in this case, Devon Achane, that would be the bigger loser there. So Dwain, there's a lot of hype going on in the old Twitter sphere this week. Who knows what rumors are true or not? But the Jets at 7, there was this idea that maybe if Jeanty falls to them, they could be looking to trade Breece Hall. But yeah, exactly. Even if we do see Jeanty go to the Jets at pick 7, going to be a situation where, again, probably maybe not the most ideal spot for Jeanty, but more than anything, just really bad news for one Breece Hall. But let's go ahead and move along to the, I would say consensus RB2 in the draft at this point, and that is North Carolina RB Omarion Hampton. Once again, Friedman and our guy Thor are in union here. They haven't gone to the Broncos at pick 20. Does seem like that's the satisfying case. But I want to ask you, Dwain, do you think maybe we're overhyping the idea that Hampton's this locked in first round pick? I know you got to talking to great Matt Waldman recently. And by the way, if you guys haven't gotten Matt's scouting guide, do yourself a favor and do it, because he is truly one of the best in the business at what he does. But I believe, I don't want to put, rankings in Waldman's mouth, but didn't he have Hampton actually quite a bit outside of his top 5?
Yeah, I think he has him at running back 6. Don't let me put words in his mouth either, but you guys go check out the rookie scouting portfolio for yourself. But no, I don't think that Omarion Hampton is a lock to go in round 1. Could he? Yes. But it is such a deep running back class. The teams could start to play chicken, Ian, right? And they could start deciding how much, how far will these guys fall? Could we get someone at the end of round 2 that we only like slightly less than Omarion Hampton? And if you look at the way the supermodel grades these guys without draft capital, they're all really close. Now, I will say Hampton he's in a tier above some of these other guys without draft capital, but it's not like it's a huge tier break, right? It's like a small tier break between him and some of these other players. So by no means do I think that he's a lock for round 1. That does seem to be where things are leaning, though, right now. If you look at Mock Draft Central, it is actually pick 25, but he's going to the Broncos at pick 20, as you mentioned. That's the consensus mock spot for him as well. So come on, Thor and Friedman, shake it up. What are we doing? No, I'm just kidding, guys. So here's the teams that I would throw out here. So if I'm going by the idea of a landing spot where I think Omarion Hampton is good enough to take over the starting job, and it's an offense we kind of like, and there's a pick towards the end of round 1 or early round 2. I feel like that's kind of the teams we would have to hone in on, unless there's a trade. Obviously, a lot of different things could happen, but I would say the team that I would be looking at would be the Chiefs. I think he would immediately be the best team on that backfield, on that team, right? We've got Pacheco, who's coming off the injury last year. Kareem Hunt, did yeoman's work, but let's be honest, it wasn't great. You'd rather not be handing away touches than a Chiefs offense to Kareem Hunt. They did go out and get Elijah Mitchell, but Elijah Mitchell is as explosive as he is, and for little bursts, we've seen that he's never staying healthy. Right? He's just never been able to stay healthy. If you told me Elijah Mitchell was healthy for a full year with the Chiefs and had a 4 or 5 game run where he was the starter, we'd probably really like it in fantasy. It's just not something you can count on. So I feel like Omarion Hampton, that's a good landing spot. He immediately takes over the backfield. They don't necessarily ask their backs in that offense right now to work down the field as receivers because they have so many other guys doing that from the receiver and tight end position. He'd be more of a check down guy. So I like that one. The sneaky one that I would give you, Ian, would be the Rams.
Ooh.
Sean McVay's shown us he's willing to ride a guy. Blake Corum really never got out of the, I don't want to say he was in the doghouse, but was never really able to carve out much of a role last year. He was only a rookie. And let's be honest, Kyron Williams, the best thing going for him is just the fact that they keep handing him the ball. There's nothing special going on now with Kyron Williams.
5 or 6 more fumbles, Dwain, and he might, have to take a seat on that bench. Just so you wait.
Yeah. Well, if he has to return kicks, that surely means that he's now going to have to. He's going to give away carries. So I think that's the sneaky one. Would be the Rams. We love Sean McVay, and could you imagine, a back like Hampton who is more explosive than Kyron Williams? And let's be honest, I think people would immediately think, well, passing game. Kyron's not doing anything in the passing game, guys. He's not doing the things he did in Notre Dame. They're not asking him to do those things. I don't think it's necessarily that he can't. It's that, they've either had Cooper Kupp and Nakua, or now they're going to have Devontae Adams and Nakua. And once you take that away, Ian, that's half the pie already gone. Yeah. So they're just not throwing the ball to the back. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. I do think Omarion Hampton would be an upgrade at running back for the Rams. I would like that one. And I would expect Omarion Hampton to overtake Kyron Williams. Maybe not immediately. It might be like a mid-season kind of thing.
Rams would be a very interesting one. I don't exactly, see it happening. I know we're just kind of saying it's a surprising one to begin with, so I'm not, faulting that logic. What about the Bills, Dwain? Because we have James Cook, been a bit vocal on social media about wanting this, 15 million plus per year extension. James Cook has been good, but beyond him, we have Ty Johnson, who just led the NFL in yards per touch. That was cool, but certainly more of a third down back. We all like Ray Davis, but let's face it, day 3 draft capital doesn't think he's exactly locked in. I do wonder if there could be a TreVeyon Henderson, Omarion Hampton going to the Bills there, because again, we have our clear-cut, I think, big 4 RB needy teams: the Broncos, Raiders, Cowboys, and Browns. After that, though, I got the Bills, Dolphins, Steelers, Bengals, and 49ers as these teams that maybe low-key could want one. 49ers just because Kyle Shanahan is obsessed with taking, round 3 RBs, even though he already has plenty of good ones. But, the Steelers, maybe that's the one that's staring us in the face. I know we both want Jaylen Warren just to be that guy, so I'm not trying to, talk about Hampton going there to kind of avoid having that happen. But I do wonder if the Bills, man, could be, because there's so many good RBs. If we're expecting there to be 8 to 10 going, within the first 100, 120 picks of the draft, I mean, a couple of these depth charts could be thrown out of sorts. I would say, again, Bills, to your point, the Rams, Steelers, Bengals, look out, Chase Brown. I think they all qualify.
Yeah, I had the Bills listed. Commanders are also listed. Brian Robinson Jr. has not been able to stay healthy. He hasn't done much. Austin Eckler is getting older, so I think the Commanders could be in play as well. Even the Texans. Joe Mixon's getting old, right? He's really all they have. So you could see the Texans, someone like that, doing it. But if we're trying to say, hey, a good landing spot, James Cook would need to be out of the way, right, for it to work for the Bills. I did choose the Chiefs over them just because I feel like with the Chiefs, Omarion Hampton, really insert name of running back taken at the end of first round, probably has a really good chance just to take over the backfield for the Chiefs. Versus with the Bills, you would need them to move James Cook because we know he's going to have his role. And Ray Davis, he did some nice things last year. I think a rookie running back at the end of round 1 would supplant Ray Davis. We probably wouldn't have to worry about that anymore, but it would still be a split with James Cook. If you move James Cook, then yeah, absolutely, I would be all in on the Bills as a landing spot for one of these backs at the end of round 1.
Also should mention the Chargers. Najee Harris, just a 1-year, $6 million deal. Really don't have anyone behind him at this point, which, makes him look pretty great when doing projections ahead of 2025, but certainly, a high chance that they are going to be adding someone else. Dwain, have you gone, you just said you were done with most of the projections. Is Najee like a top 10 running back right now just because there's nobody else there?
No, so I played it kind of conservative in the projections with teams that I thought could take a running back. The only teams that I didn't, that I basically left alone and wasn't concerned about it were the teams where, like the Seahawks, where you've got Kenneth Walker and you've got Zach Charbonnet, right? And unless they trade one of those guys, they're not taking another running back. So looking at which team am I looking at? The
Chargers.
Chargers, right? Yeah, Chargers. I did just finish Najee's projection last night, and I've got him as running back 15 right now. And again, that's with one. I haven't done the AFC South, so that one's still the last one left. I've got to do today after the show. I gave Najee 55% of the rushing attempts. Like if they don't take a running back, like that's going to bump up closer to like 60, 62%. If they take a running back at the end of round 1, if they took Omarion Hampton, like I'm probably dropping that number to like 40, 45%, somewhere in that range as far as rushing attempts.
And to be clear, I don't think Najee is just like, oh, he's so underrated. You guys don't know ball. He's a dirt average running back, but I think a similar sentiment can be true for guys like Kyron Williams and Joe Mixon. And guess what? Yep. When you give the dirt average running back 300 plus touches and an offense we actually like, you get a lot of fantasy points. So we'll see what happens in Los Angeles. We did want to go through one more potential running back. Dwayne, we can probably keep it shorter because I think we've gone through, again, all the teams that kind of need these running backs. But it is going to be the Ohio State's own TreVeyon Henderson. Friedman does not have Henderson making it, into the first round of the draft. Thor doesn't either, but Thor actually released a 2-round mock draft today. So again, make sure you guys check that out. A lot of fun trades in there as well. Spicy stuff from Thor. We commend you. But yeah, he actually has him going to the Patriots at pick 38, not pick 4. That would be absolutely crazy. But Dwayne, I actually had written down the spot that you threw out there. Why are we not, kind of giving more credence to the idea that the Chiefs actually dip their toes in this running back pool at the end of round 1? Is it literally just CEH PTSD going on here? It's kind of what it seems like.
I think so. I do. I think so. I had 3 teams bolded here. I had the Vikings, because Kevin O'Connell and he loves playmakers on his offense. We have Aaron Jones getting older. Yeah, we trade for Jordan Mason, but more of a banger between the tackles. I can see TreVeyon Henderson like just being an amazing toy, right, for Kevin O'Connell to play with. Now you got this guy that you can get the ball to behind the line of scrimmage that can still hit the big plays. But the team that I also had bolded was the Chiefs. Kind of fits along with what we just talked about with Omarion Hampton. And honestly, probably if they want to remain a pass-heavy offense, last year we saw them dial it back a little bit just because the passing game wasn't working. That's the most we've seen the Chiefs run the ball over the last 5 seasons. So really, either way, like they're in need of someone to help them out in the running back room to actually add value to those touches. Now, Pacheco could get healthy and look a little bit better, but yeah, I do think that TreVeyon Henderson fits that. The other team that I did underline is, what about the Cowboys? Right. And so if they're not, if Jeanty's not falling to them now in drafts, and it's too early probably for them to pull the trigger on a guy like Omarion Hampton at pick 12, could they be interested in taking a running back in round 2? They've got round 2, pick 12. Don't pick again until round 3, pick 12. So I could see them doing it in round 2. And that's about the range TreVeyon's going right now in mock drafts. He's going pick 42. The most recent mock drafts, like just looking across consensus, have him going to the Commanders. So, I mean, it's another interesting team. Like you said, we don't have to rehash all these teams. I will just say real quickly, Ian, I kind of like color-coded a quick board, and I'll just share it with everybody. I think the worst landing spots for running backs, we don't want to see any running backs land these spots, which means they probably will. Atlanta, right? You got Bijan, plus you got Algier. Detroit, people know who's in Detroit. I did name the Jets, right? Because, I mean, still, there's like 3 dudes that are pretty good. I mean, two that for sure are good. And then Seattle, because you got 2 second-round picks within the last 4 years tied up there. And I had the best landing spots as being the Cowboys, Broncos, Chiefs, and the Raiders. So those are bad depth charts. And then I've got average depth charts with decent offenses. So you've got the Bears, the Bengals, obviously a good offense. As much as I like Chase Brown, I don't think he's a guy that can hold off some of these talents that are in this class. I actually think that Chase Brown could flat out just lose the job to some of these guys. So I would be okay with the Bengals. And then you have the Chargers, Vikings, and then you've got some of these other teams that aren't very good, but they've got room, and that would be Cleveland. Jerome Ford is it right now in Cleveland. They don't have anyone else. And then I would say the Giants, right? We're back to Tyrone Tracy, who we really like. Tyrone Tracy did well last year. And you have Devin Singletary, but it doesn't take much imagination to imagine, a running back pushing those guys to the side and taking over.
I think those are all pretty spot on again, just in terms of the depth charts. And we also need to remember, though, like the new coaching staffs come in, maybe they look at the running back room and just say, you know what, I want something different here. Bears obviously have a nice combo of that. You mentioned them, but the Saints, the Jaguars, the Patriots, I'm okay with kind of the current situations. If we want to run with Kamara and Kendre Miller, that's fine by me. Might not be so fine with Kellen Moore. So again, we'll see what happens as these running back spots play out. As we talked about really all season long, no position has more volatility in terms of where we kind of think of them right now, as opposed to what we probably will in 2 or 3 short weeks. So good stuff on the running backs. Plenty of wide receiver landing spots to get to next, right after a quick word to our friends over at New Era. Get my Chargers hat on. I am in Cali after all. Love this color and love our friends over at New Era because, guys, watch the future of the NFL begin their journey with New Era Cap. As the world's top prospects chase their NFL dreams, New Era Cap is with them every step of the way. From the first pick to the final selection, feel the excitement build with each name called in Green Bay. Gear up and show your pride with the official onstage cap of the NFL Draft from New Era Cap. Wide receiver landing spot time, Dwain, and we're going to start things off with the wide receiver 1 in the rookie wide receiver supermodel. That is Arizona talent Tetairoa McMillan. So Matthew Friedman has the Cowboys picking him at 12. Thor has the Cowboys picking him at 10 because they traded up to get his services. What say you, though, Mr. Dwain?
Look, I mean, McMillan, I would like him to go to a quarterback that is willing just to throw the ball to his wide receivers regardless. I do think the one potential danger with Tetairoa McMillan is if you land with someone that wants you to be open all the time, because we don't know for sure. That's the one thing in his scouting profile that Thor's called out, Lance Zierlein called out. So there are some potential challenges there. So I'd like him to land somewhere with a guy that's like, I don't care really. If you're a big dude, if you're getting single man coverage, I'm just throwing you the ball. period. And that's what happened with McMillan in college. He did get peppered with targets whenever he saw that man coverage at a very high rate. So that's the kind of thing I would be looking for. So we're looking for a player that, has to go to a team, Ian, that's probably got a pick within the first 15. Right now, he's mocking pick 10. So I would say right now that looks like New England, Carolina, and Dallas. And if we go back to that other criteria I just gave you, I worry a little bit about Bryce Young right now. I think Bryce Young made great strides at the end of last season, but I do worry he's a guy that's going to he's more of a progression guy, right? I don't know that he's going to be the quarterback that's just truly going to be like, got my dude, single coverage. I'm just going to try to really rope it in there. Maybe he doesn't have the arm strength necessarily for that either, but Drake May does. So I would not mind if the Patriots reached and they took a guy like McMillan, or maybe they trade a few picks back and they still get him. I think the other one would be the Cowboys. I think that Dak, while he is a progression guy, he does trust his arm, and we've seen that actually at times get him in trouble with picks. And all you have is CeeDee Lamb. I mean, Ferguson we like. He's a nice player, but I don't think it would be very, very hard to push him aside. And I also think if you add McMillan to the Cowboys offense, I think suddenly we're talking about an offense that we think could be a top 6, top 8 unit. Now, lots of questions with Schottenheimer as offensive coordinator. But let's be honest, Mike McCarthy was not that great. Mike McCarthy was essentially living off the talent in Dallas. I'll give him credit for, not last season, but the year before, whenever they started off really rough and they did get things turned around. I thought McCarthy made some nice tweaks and started moving CeeDee Lamb and stuff around. But it would be really nice, to have a complementary weapon. Because right now, Jalen Tolbert's not it. Right. He's just not going to be it. Brandon Cooks is gone. He also wasn't it. If we look at Jalen Brooks, the Cowboys don't have anyone. What are we going to do? We're going to sit here and say that it's Jonathan Mingo. We're 2 years into that, and Mingo's not shown to be able to do anything. So Cowboys, quit trading away your draft picks. You don't know who to trade them for. You guys got to chill out with this stuff. So
the Joe Milton one was fine.
Milton would be a great pick.
To be fair, the Joe Milton trade was fine.
It's fine, but really, I don't know. It's TBD. It's not terrible, right?
Right.
And I get it. If you don't like this draft class, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Joe Milton ends up being amazing. I think I'm just sour on the Cowboys front office right now here. Just recently, it has a pretty good track record actually over the last 7 to 8 years, but some kind of wild moves as far as the trades go over the last 2 to 3 seasons.
And I have no idea if Milton's going to make it, but I'm just saying, I feel like we are just so used to kind of trashing some of these trades. And the Jonathan Mingo one, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you there. But the Milton one, again, you're getting a higher upside potential late round quarterback. You don't like this draft. I know you can just say, we only have one game at week 18. Pretty cool game. You got a guy with literally one of the strongest arms in the NFL. I know backflips don't necessarily translate to, realized NFL production or in fantasy land, but again, didn't exactly hate that one. I think it's just becoming trendy to hate on everything the Cowboys do, but they've kind of earned it, I guess. So I will say, Dwain, you mentioned it, kind of top 15 pick range for Ted McMillan. What if we added him to the team with the guy that we can't stop comping him to? The Atlanta Falcons. Why not? Kyle Pitts seems to be on the out. Darnell Mooney is going to be at the top of the cap casualty talk, in 2026. He's fine. Drake London already spent 406 snaps in the slot last year, only just over 600 out wide. I don't know that their skill sets overlap quite as much as people love talking about, because with McMillan, it's Mike Evans and Drake London. Do we have to comp the guy just the only 6'4", 6'5", really good wide receivers we've seen in recent history? When I think of London, I think of more of a high volume guy that can work out of the slot. Obviously, he can win contested catches and stuff, but if you put him and Ted, on the field at the same time, you're giving Michael Penix more weapons. And the first thing you said about McMillan, Dwain, was you need that quarterback who's willing to force the ball in the tight windows. Next Gen Stats has an average separation metric for their quarterbacks, and last year tied with Jameis Winston as the most aggressive tight window quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. Come on, it's not bad.
So Michael Penix Jr. will be benched by week 8, and it'll be Kirk Cousins who won't do it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't mind it. I do. The supermodel did comp Drake London to Ted McMillan, but it doesn't necessarily care that they're 6'4", and people just the things that most people are using to comp the players don't really matter to the supermodel. It's looking right across the buckets of production, which is adjusted for all, for strength of schedule and teammates and all that. And then you've got your film rating, you've got your draft capital. So it's just looking across those three buckets at a high level and comparing. And those two did come in the same range. But I do think, if I do think about stylistic, ways that these guys play, neither one of them are really guys that take the top off the defense. So I think that would be one concern in Atlanta from an NFL X's and O's perspective. Not to say that it couldn't work, because I do think they're both guys that if you've got a quarterback that's just willing to throw it with whichever guy's getting the single coverage, you're probably going to have a good matchup, right, on either side of the field. I can imagine that being pretty good for the run game as well. Two big frame guys that can really block. Yeah, I don't mind Atlanta. I think it's fine. Like, I don't think it would be like an elite fantasy landing spot for year one. It could be a lot better by year two.
It'd be like those old, Jay Cutler, Josh McCown Bears teams when they had Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey out there just skying over, DBs on both sides of the field. So I hear you. Again, not the most fantasy-friendly landing spot possible. I think, again, you hit the nail on the head there with the Patriots and the Cowboys being superior. But Falcons at pick 15, guys, I'm telling you, would not be the worst thing in the world. Let's talk, though, about the guy who, in a lot of people's minds, is the real wide receiver one in the class if he actually ends up playing wide receiver full-time. Of course, is the reigning Heisman Trophy winner out of Colorado, Mr. Travis Hunter. Matthew Friedman has him going to the Giants at pick 3. Thor has him going to the Browns at pick 2. And really, when we talk about like the floor of where someone can go, in this case, it really does seem like, Hunter is not going to be making it out of the top 5 and more likelihood top 4. Heck, from what we're hearing from Adam Schefter recently, seems like he very well could be the second pick of the draft. So I get it, between the Browns, the Giants, and the Patriots. Doesn't take, a rocket fantasy scientist to tell you that we would prefer Drake May in that situation. However, Dwain, this could be a fun situation where we kind of imagine a trade up. Who could actually try to make a move? What if the Dolphins decide that they're done with Tyreek Hill, going on Twitter, and they send Tyreek Hill, pick 13 and pick 48 to one of these teams to go up there, get Travis Hunter? Mike McDaniel says, oh my God, I have Travis Hunter. You're playing offense full time. Go hang out with Jalen Ramsey, playing some defensive packages. Do your thing over there for 20 snaps a game. But I am featuring you as the wide receiver one in an offense that loves to use a sort of pre-snap motion, yak-friendly scheme stuff that would get the most out of Hunter. We'd have Tua getting him the ball. Say what you want, how elite is Tua. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. He's not going to be scrambling. I mean, just again, if we kind of had to do the Christian McCaffrey experiment where we just kind of cleared every single wide receiver depth chart and said what quarterback, play caller, scheme sort of situation could just produce the best wide receiver. I'm not saying the Dolphins would be number one, man, but they would be up there towards the top.
Well, I mean, you're hitting the criteria. We want an offensive-minded coach that's also innovative, right? Now, we've talked about how Mike McDaniel's his offense has stagnated a little bit last season, so he's going to have to figure out what his counterpunch is to that. And maybe it is someone that can actually do maybe some more things that he doesn't think Tyreek Hill can bring to his offense at this point. So I think the way you're thinking about it is correct. I want an offensive play caller that's going to really value Travis Hunter and give him a chance to play on offense. Also would prefer to have at least an average to above average quarterback. So the Dolphins would also check that box with Tua. We know not a great or elite guy, but certainly capable of, supporting multiple fantasy performers. We've seen him support at least 2 multiple years in a row. And heck, last year, I know it got dispersed more, but he even made Jonnu Smith into something we really cared about in fantasy football. So I do think that a team like the Dolphins would be really good. I think if you're thinking of trade up scenarios, like you could think of the Saints. I know Derek Carvey wants a bash on him, but he's kind of close to Tua. Like, to be honest, if you really get into the data, like, they're kind of similar. So, like, I think he would work. Even the Panthers potentially, like Bryce Young, would have to take a step forward for that one. The Raiders would be another one. But then you got to worry. Like, Pete Carroll, I could totally see being a guy that would want to split up the playing time, maybe playing more on defense. So I think you're on, like, to the right thing. Like, if we're looking at the teams that he's mostly being mocked to, you got the Giants and you've got the Browns. The Browns are at least the team that has been on the record of, like, at least alluding to the fact that they might let him play offense, or they see him as being a guy that can be a wide receiver one in the NFL. I don't know if we've got quotes that strong yet from the Giants. If we have, I haven't seen those. So I would lean, to the Browns. But man, Kenny Pickett, ouch. Like, man, it's like, I mean, there's always a chance of anything happening with Kenny Pickett. Like, it's just really not been good. Now, he was decent with the Eagles. Like, when it came into a well-oiled machine and took over for Jalen Hurts for a little bit last year, like, it wasn't terrible. But Kenny Pickett doesn't really give me, great vibes. But if you talk about the Giants, I mean, we're talking about Russell Wilson. I mean, Jameis would be the ideal scenario, obviously. Yes. But we know it's probably going to be Russ just because the team's going to be worried about the turnover. So here's what I will say. Travis Hunter would immediately be the best wide receiver on the Browns. Travis Hunter would be the second best wide receiver by far on the Giants. So the talent is certainly there. I've seen a lot of people, seems to kind of be fun lately to knock Travis Hunter just because of the schedule that he played and the fact that he's like 6 foot and under 200 pounds. Like, I could have swore we were living in 2025 where we've debunked those issues. But anyway.
I don't think you can knock him for the schedule. I will say, if you because I know most of the time, you're watching these all 22.
I've seen people knocking him for the schedule. I've seen people like flat out just saying he's not you can't even consider him to be a high-end wide receiver one because he played an easy schedule. Like, I've seen those words.
That's ridiculous, but there was some stat padding going on there. I mean, I remember there was the one game they were up like freaking 40, 50 points in the fourth quarter. He's still catching, like double covered fades and then doing. How many times did he hit the Heisman last season? Man, it's like, all right, we get it. You're a baller, but chill. Like, he just, so whatever. I'm not trying to knock Travis Hunter, but if I was going to, Dwain, that would be the route I would go for. So,
well, the key words you said there were double covered. He caught a double covered fade late in the game.
Yeah,
I mean, they tried to double cover him and they couldn't.
Yeah, but you're up 40, just chill, bro. You're playing 120 snaps a game. Take a breather. But hey, whatever. I'm not Deion Sanders. It'd be cool if I was. All right, Dwain, Missouri wide receiver, Luther. I know it is weak. I'm just saying if you can't make a good one. Luther Burden.
I had to be strong. Yes, Luther Burden.
Dwain. Thor has him going to the Jaguars. Pick 36. Freeman doesn't have him in the first round as well. Obviously, we want our guys to have as high a draft capital as possible. What say you for his best and most fantasy-friendly home?
Yeah, right now on Mock Draft Central, we're at pick 34. So he's out of the first round at this point across mock drafts. So, again, we're looking for a team where we know that he could immediately get some playing time, looking for teams that would be in that range, right, as far as their draft picks go. What would you think about Houston? I know that's pick 25 because they do have 3 more picks in the first 3 rounds. They've got a second rounder, and then they've got 2/3. So that gives them a little bit of flexibility. I know they signed Christian Kirk, but I would like that. I would like CJ Stroud with Luther Burden, and you let Christian Kirk really play more of the vertical slot or push him to the outside, and you let Luther Burden do some of the stuff around the line of scrimmage. I would like that. I'll be honest. I don't mind looking at the Chiefs again. Like, I'm not completely sold like on the entire wide receiver room for the Chiefs. Like, here's what I know. One of Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy are going to be good. Maybe 2 of them will be good, but are they all 3 going to be good and healthy next year? Probably not. So that leaves room, and we've got Travis Kelce, on the decline. What's the team that you have in mind here, Ian?
I have the Broncos. I'm not sure why everyone's like, oh, Denver needs to take a running back at 20. We know how deep the class is. They have pick 51, pick 85. Like, use one of those on the RB. When has Sean Payton needed to use a high draft pick on a running back to get a lot of production out of him in the past? All right. Kamara was what, 3rd round pick back in the day. I mean, even last year. All right. I don't think we were exactly, and the Broncos running backs weren't good. All right. They could definitely use an upgrade, but okay, if they had a better running back, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be knocking off the Bills in Buffalo. What they need is better wide receiver talent. Devon Vele, he's starting right now, Dwain. Marvin Mims, he's in the starting lineup, and that's fine. I like Marvin Mims, but let's not pretend that just because Marvin Mims has a similar, kind of yak-friendly, you can scheme him up, these gadgety touches skill set to obviously Luther Burden. That's not a good enough reason for me to pass on this guy. Like, you're in an offense, you want to add more players that can make things happen with the football in their hands. Why not Luther Burden? Add him to Sean Payton, knows how to exactly get this done. But Bo Nix, someone who, again, throws the ball well downfield. I don't think he's, Charlie Checkdown or anything like that. But we did see him a lot of times at Oregon, just be more well-versed and getting the ball out of his hands quickly. I think the Broncos, man, could be one of these places where in terms of the target upside and just a team need at the position really makes a lot of sense. Yet, no, it's just Omarion Hampton in every freaking mock draft I see.
Yeah, I think my 3 favorite landing spots for a wide receiver at the end of round 1, and I think these are the 3 best landing spots overall for wide receivers, and they're all in range where they could go after Luther Burden or some of these other guys we're about to talk about, but it would be the Chargers. We've just got Ladd McConkey. Mike Williams, a year removed, from the knee injury. Maybe he could be a little bit better. But Quentin Johnston, just been far too inconsistent. So I feel like a wide receiver taken at the end of round 1 probably immediately steps into the wide receiver 2 role for, the Chargers. The other team would be the Packers. As much as we kind of like the receiver group as a whole, none of them has found a way to stand out. So if you think you can get a guy that could turn into a standout wide receiver that you could feature in your offense, I still contend that might be Jayden Reed if you just let the guy play more. But if you don't think that it's him, then maybe it is Luther Burden. And the final one would be the Bills. Keon Coleman, not feeling real good about that pick last year. Obviously, they just paid Khalil Shakir, but he's an underneath slot guy. Then outside of that, I know Curtis Samuel's there, Ian, so I'm sorry. I'll just go ahead and apologize. But outside of that, I'm not crazy about the Bills wide receivers. Like I think it's a bad wide receiver room overall. Like if I had to put a grade on it and compare it to all the other offenses in the league, I think the talent level at wide receiver for Buffalo is bad. It would be one of the bottom units, even though there are some nice attributes that different guys have. So Chargers, Packers, Bills are the elite landing spots, in my opinion, as far as these end of round one wide receivers go, because you've got an immediate path to playing time. What do you also have in each one of those spots? You have a quarterback. You've got Josh Allen, obviously. We've got Jordan Love. And then for the Chargers, we have Justin Herbert. So those are really clean landing spots. So I like all of those.
And it's a good point on the Bills wide receiver room. They have some guys, all right? Maybe Keon Coleman can take a step forward. He's never going to be Diggs, but he could be, a rich man's Gabe Davis out there, catch 9 touchdowns in a year or something like that. Khalil Shakir, really good yak-wise. But this is my whole issue with the Josh Palmer signing. It's like, okay, on the one hand, I get it. He does bring more of that route running. He can win man-on-man in certain situations. Like, he has a different skill set that does complement Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir nicely. But really, 3rd and 7 against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, you need someone to win man-on-man, and it's Josh Palmer. Now that I said that, he's probably going to do that exact, scenario this next season. So we'll see how it goes down. But again, right, yeah. But and again, it's not that they're bad, but there's so many good wide receivers in the NFL that are just good. And I think the Bills have 3 good ones. But if you had to, again, rank them versus every other receiver room, I'm with you. I do think they will be finishing in the bottom 10. You mentioned the Packers, Dwain, and that's where I want to talk about here next with the Ohio State's own wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka. Freeman does not have him going around 1. Thor has him sliding to round 2, which is a bit surprising. Titans teaming up with Cam Ward there at pick 35. What about Emeka Egbuka to the Packers at pick 23? We get the first-round draft capital. We get seemingly a day one starting job, likely next to Jayden Reed and Romeo Doubs. Could keep Dontavian Wicks rotating, but Christian Watson's going to be sidelined for the foreseeable future. And again, Dwain, I've loved this comp more than almost any. Emeka Egbuka is Gen Z Robert Woods, so why not team him up with Matt LaFleur, who got a ton out of Robert Woods when he was the Rams offensive coordinator back in 2017. This spot rocks, and I'm right.
I'll be honest, that one would scare me. And the only reason why is I have to now here's why. Hear me out. I have to trust LaFleur to actually play this man in 2 wide receiver sets. We've already seen him unwilling to do that with Jayden Reed, and they're similar players. Jayden Reed actually won downfield more in college than what we've seen from Egbuka. So, theoretically, if I knew that LaFleur would play him on the outside, and I do think he can, and I think he can play on outside. He can play outside and play as your Z receiver, right? Similar to people talk about Chris Godwin playing in the slot versus playing outside. His route tree is the same. Whether he lines up outside or inside, the kind of routes Chris Godwin wins on are very similar to what we're talking about with Egbuka. But you have to have a head coach that's going to be, and an offensive coordinator that's going to be willing to really put him out there and let him, play in those scenarios. Now, you're not going to have Christian Watson most likely next year. Got injured at least for probably 12 games or so. So you're not going to have him for most of the season. So there's going to be an open spot there. Dontavian Wicks, obviously, had butterfingers. So I think the role would definitely be open for him to win it. I don't know how much I would trust it. The team I would turn to here would be the Jacksonville Jaguars, because we just talked about Chris Godwin. We know you got Brian Thomas Jr. You can put Brian Thomas Jr. anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can play Brian Thomas Jr. You can put him in the box suites and it wouldn't matter. He's still going to score fantasy points because he's just a complete beast. But Egbuka could be the guy that they could play at Z. They could put him inside and do a lot of the things like what Cohen did with Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay. You really let Brian Thomas Jr. play more of that Mike Evans role. We would be talking about 2 young guys to really help support, hopefully, the eventual breakout we've been waiting for freaking ever from Trevor Lawrence. But I will say this, Trevor Lawrence has shown to be good enough to support 2 fantasy wide receivers. So I think you would be checking a box from there. So that one to me is the like a glove fit. If we're going Ace Ventura, pulling into the parking lot, he just slides in. He's like a glove. That would be mine. It would be Jacksonville taking Egbuka. But again, I'm not against the Packers one. I just, LaFleur just scares me because, dude, how can you just not already give Jayden Reed 90% route participation. Like, what's the holdup here?
There are several good fits again in that early part of round 2. Obviously, Egbuka is not going to be going top 10. At least you would think he wouldn't. So, yeah, whether it is the Giants, instead of them going with Travis Hunter, the Titans, as Thor said, Jaguars, as Dwain made a good point about, Patriots and Raiders, again, all between picks 34 and 38. I think we could all wrap our minds around Emeka doing some good things in each of those landing spots. Someone who does seem like far more of a lot to go in round 1, though, is, Mr. 40-yard dash himself, Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden. Friedman actually has him going to the Packers at pick 23. Thor has the Seahawks at pick 18. Dwain, what about the Cardinals at pick 16? So this one's a little bit, again, more like where I admit, similar to Tet McMillan, this is not like the most fantasy-friendly spot, but you got Trey McBride locked down, highest paid tight end. That's great. You got Maserati Marv on the outside. Not the best rookie season in the world, but relative to expectations, yada, yada, yada. I like Greg Dortch. We all know this. 342 yards in 17 games, not quite getting it done. I think Michael Wilson's skill set kind of overlaps with Marv's. Like, what they need is someone who can actually threaten the defense vertically and also hopefully provide some of that yak ability. They hope Rondale could be that guy. Obviously, he's been out of town. I think Matthew Golden checks both those boxes pretty well. And the big sentiment with him is, he didn't play as fast as that 4.29 40 time indicated. But what he did do was separate at a high level and still, show that ability to win man on man. And, hey, you still got that 4.29 speed. Defenses are going to be, worried about leaving him completely alone. So I know Kyler Murray, we've seen him struggle to really, get Marv or really any wide receivers other than DeAndre Hopkins going in fantasy land for an extended period of time. But in terms of just like looking at where could Golden go, that all of a sudden like real life fit makes this offense a lot better in the passing game, Cardinals low key could be one of them.
Well, I think the world is Matthew Golden's oyster because he has the one thing that NFL teams just can't get enough of, and they're just salivating over, and it's speed at wide receiver. In fact, they love it so much that we don't even put it into the supermodel anymore because it's already accounted for in draft capital. In fact, if I add it to the model on top of what draft capital does, it actually just makes the model worse. So that just tells you the NFL's already over accounting for it. But really where I'm going with this is like, you can see any team taking me in because there's so many teams that don't have the speed to get over the top. We just talked about the Bills. He would do it for them. The two teams that I had written down were Buffalo and Green Bay. So I'm with Friedman on the Green Bay one. This is a guy that I could see them actually letting play a full complement of snaps because you would be putting him outside, let him stretch out the field. But I think there's so many teams that we could talk about here. And I think that the Arizona Cardinals are very fair game. I agree with you. I think Michael Wilson and what you get from Marvin Harrison Jr., very much an overlap in skill set. Marv clearly better than what Michael Wilson is putting out there. But if you need a guy that can stretch it out, Trey McBride's going to work the underneath areas of the field. You can use him in play action against the linebackers, things like that. But mostly playing underneath. Like Trey McBride's not stretching things out a lot in his route tree if you guys go watch him. So I think that Golden would be a really good fit with Arizona. To your point, like, can Kyler really support 3 fantasy options? I would lean towards probably not. Any given week, yes, but like consistently through the course of a season, I would lean no at this point in Kyler's career. But I definitely could see the fit. Like I could see how it would work. I could see it for Atlanta, right? I know we talked about Tet McMillan, but Atlanta would give you that vertical threat, right? That you're not really getting with Drake London. So again, Matthew Golden, like because of the skill set he brings to the table, is great. Here's my challenge, right? And we talked about this in the Supermodel episode. If you guys haven't heard it, go back and check it out over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And we broke down Golden. The biggest issue is he's completely being carried by draft capital in the model. His production never at any point lived up to the hype that we're getting. In fact, you can start going back and comping him to guys that have gone in the first round that were mainly getting there on draft capital, not being supported by the film grades, not being supported. Not that his film grades are bad, but not enough for like the talk that's going on around him right now. And the challenge is most of those guys have been Bussian that just got pushed up the board due to speed. So he really is going to have to live into this projected version of what he's going to be and not the version that we really saw in college. Now, there can always be reasons for that, right? We hear it all the time. My offense didn't feature me. Man, I'm sorry. Usually when you're really good, your offense just freaking features you. So I'm not saying that never happens, but for the most part, I have a problem with that argument. I don't think that it rings true in most cases. I can certainly go back and there are examples. Terry McLaurin's a great one. Never had huge seasons like that at Ohio State. Comes to the NFL and completely surprises everyone. So it definitely can happen. But I mean, Golden, man, he's just he's such a risk. But he's going to go in the first round because he can do the thing that a lot of teams want to add to their team.
I'll tell you what, Dwain, as someone who's logged a lot of dynasties in NCAA football over the years, when I get a really good wide receiver, 4-star, 5-star, I use them, So just saying.
Exactly.
Final three. We have 3 tight ends. We're going to kind of rapid fire here. Only a few minutes left on the Fantasy Life show. But again, at the top of Dwain's rookie tight end supermodel, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Harold Fannin Jr. Colston Loveland, I want him to go to the Chargers. You want him to go to the Chargers. America wants him to go to the Chargers. Make that happen. It would be sweet. Justin Herbert, soft depth chart and all that. Tyler Warren, Dwain, I hate all of his fits. The Jets, the Colts, no. What if the Jaguars?
I'm with you.
What? Yeah, Jags, pick 5. Let's go. Brenton Strange, take a seat, man. You're used to it anyway.
Yeah, I'd be okay with the Jags. I really do like the call on the Jags. I'd be okay with the Patriots if they really wanted to get spicy. Most likely they're not going to pull the trigger there, but maybe the Jaguars would. If you just really want to get fun, Ian, like, why don't we just go with the Raiders? Put Tyler Warren on the Raiders. Okay. And see what happens. Could you imagine Tyler Warren? And guys, obviously I'm joking here, but Tyler, this is something Pete Carroll, would you be surprised with him and Chip Kelly? You have Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, and Michael Mayer. We're going to just run 3 wide receivers. I will tell you this. If you guys have looked at the Raiders depth chart, probably no one can name anyone outside of Jacoby Myers. So again, I know that's not happening. I'm just kidding, but I'm with you. Like, I don't like the fit with the Jets. We've already got Garrett Wilson there. We got a scrambling quarterback that's, let's just, put it out there. To this point in his career, has not really shown a ceiling as a passer, and Justin Fields. And then whenever you talk about the situation of going to the Colts, kind of the same thing. Like, we know who Daniel Jones is. We're hoping Anthony Richardson can take a step, but if he can't, that's the same thing we're dealing with Justin Fields. So the team I like here is probably the Saints, Ian. I know they re-signed Juwan Johnson, but he really is more of like a guy you want to put in the slot. They don't play him, on normal downs. So Tyler Warren going to the Saints would probably be my pick. I will say, if he land with the Panthers, he's immediately taking that starting job, so that wouldn't be the worst thing. Cowboys, if he did slide there, I do think he would immediately take away Jake Ferguson's job. So I think there's some spots there, but I'm with you. Like, I don't like the landing spot of the Jets. I don't like the landing spot of the Colts, at least for the immediate future for his fantasy value.
Last one, Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr. A lot of smoke to the idea of the Eagles trading Dallas Goedert away. So why not bring in the Bowling Green product at pick 64? No, he wouldn't be getting 150 targets, but hey, 80 or 90 on an offense, Dwain, I do think could go a long way. So any particular spots for Harold Fannin?
Man, I think, again, what you're wanting here is hopefully someone takes him in round 2. Right now, his mock draft status is in round 3, and we want him to go to an offensive play caller because that signal is going to tell us that they actually value him so much as a pass catcher that we just don't have to worry about all this crap about people saying that he can't block. Even though his inline snaps are only slightly lower than most first-round tight ends since 2018, even though his blocking grade is actually one of the best in this class, and yeah, he lined up in the slot, but so did all the other tight ends in this class, guys. So I want to see him go somewhere, Ian, where we've got a progressive play caller. Another one where I could see it work out. Let's say I mentioned the Jags earlier. Say they don't go, with someone in round 2 at wide receiver. And what if, like Egbuka, who we talked about, round 3, pick 6? They've got that. They've got 2 third-round picks, the Jaguars. Ooh. Liam Cohen, like a guy that likes to think outside the box as an offensive coordinator, where all of a sudden he says, I don't care that you're called a tight end. I'm just going to play you in Chris Godwin's role in my offense. Like that's the kind of landing spot that would really get me excited. And it would be a guy where wouldn't have to take him in round 2, but you could take him high in round 3, which also would be enough that could be enough of a signal where we're like, okay, they've got a plan for this guy.
Jaguars, that's one of those common teams, again, we've talked about several times here, really could be fun for one of these prospects. We'll find out here in a few short weeks. But appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, make sure you check out all of our goodness over at fantasylife.com. And otherwise, just have a great freaking day. So for Dwain, for producer Matt, for producer Kelsey, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning into the Fantasy Life Show. And until next time, take care, everybody.